Buried under snow, rust, and 23 years of silence, a 1979 Fox Body Mustang became more than just another forgotten car. For Derek Bieri of Vice Grip Garage, it was a test of grit, identity, and survival. Fans saw a man reviving dead machines with nothing but determination and a wrench, but what they didn't see was the storm brewing behind the camera. This Mustang wasn't just metal, it was a symbol of burnout, betrayal, and redemption. And when it finally roared back to life, it didn't just save a car, it saved Derek himself. But the road there was brutal. At first, the signs were barely noticeable. A skipped upload here, a shorter episode there. Derek still cracked jokes, his hands still blackened with grease, but something subtle had shifted. The spark that once powered Vice Grip Garage seemed to flicker. For longtime fans who hung on every word, the change was impossible to miss. His smile carried weight, his voice a quiet fatigue. He joked about being tired, but under the humor was a man clearly running low. It wasn't just motor oil he was running out of, it was energy, joy, purpose. The constant grind of building cars under impossible deadlines was leaving cracks in the chrome. Viewers saw the machines being brought back to life, but they didn't see the toll it was taking on the man behind them. Derek had built an empire of authenticity, but slowly that authenticity was draining him. He wasn't just fixing cars, he was fighting to keep himself from breaking down. And though the garage still echoed with the sound of tools behind the grease and the grit, something essential was slipping away. The signs were there, and the cracks were spreading, but the real collapse was still to come. On paper, the move to Tennessee looked like the perfect business decision. More sunshine, longer working seasons, fewer battles with frostbite compared to Minnesota's brutal winters. But the truth was more complicated. The garage that had once felt like a sanctuary had become a cage. Every corner carried the weight of expectation. Another project, another deadline, another video to feed the algorithm. Derek wasn't just chasing projects, he was running from burnout. Tennessee was supposed to be an escape, a chance to breathe again. Packing up his life and family, he traded snowdrifts for rolling hills, cold metal for warm steel. Yet the exhaustion followed him south, clinging like rust. A bigger garage, better weather, and more opportunities didn't cure the creeping emptiness. Derek had hoped that changing the scenery would change the story, but no matter where he went, the camera still loomed, and the weight of what's next pressed down harder than ever. He wanted freedom, but freedom doesn't come from geography, it comes from within. And though he had swapped frozen windshields for sunny skies, the storm he carried inside was growing darker. The real question lingered. Could he outrun burnout, or was it welded too deep? The 1979 Fox Body Mustang wasn't just another project. It was a frozen tomb of steel, buried under decades of snow and silence. Most people would have walked away. Derek didn't. He saw in it the kind of impossible task that defined Vice Grip Garage. But this wasn't just about reviving a car. It was about proving something to himself. With only a day to work and a snowstorm closing in, he fought against time, cold, and failing parts. His hands cracked and bled, his tools froze, and every bolt seemed determined to fight back. The wiring crumbled, the fuel system resisted, the spark plugs hissed in protest. Still he pushed. Then came the moment every mechanic lives for, a cough, a sputter, and finally a roar that shattered the silence. The Mustang screamed to life, echoing across the icy landscape like a battle cry. It wasn't just victory over rust and time, it was defiance against despair itself. For a moment, the fire was back. Vice Grip Garage was alive again. But that roar carried a warning too. Because while the car came back from the dead, Derek's own battle with burnout wasn't over. And the next challenge wouldn't be mechanical. It didn't happen in a dramatic way. No broken glass, no alarms, just an empty space where something precious used to be. A rare carburetor, an essential part for a future build, had been stolen from his property. For most people, it might have been just another piece of metal, but for Derek, it was different. He had rescued it years earlier, cleaned it, rebuilt it, given it new life. Losing it felt like a betrayal, not just of trust, but of the very principles he built his channel on. Vice Grip Garage was about honesty, hard work, and second chances. Having something stolen cut deep. Derek didn't rage, he didn't lash out, he simply shared the truth with his community. What happened next shocked him. Fans from around the world came together, raising more than $5,000 as reward. It wasn't about the money, it was about solidarity. The message was clear, we've got your back. That wave of support reminded him that Vice Grip Garage wasn't just his channel anymore. It belonged to everyone who believed in what it stood for. But just as his faith in people was restored, another storm brewed. This time, it came not from thieves but from whispers online. It started with a joke. Derek had nicknamed one of his troublesome builds the lawsuit. To longtime fans, it was classic vice grip humor, sarcastic, lighthearted, and a little edgy. But on the internet, jokes have a way of taking on lives of their own. Whispers began. Was Derek being sued? Was Vice Grip Garage in financial trouble? Was everything about to collapse? In reality, none of it was true. There were no lawyers, no lawsuits, just a throwaway line. But rumors spread like wildfire, fast, hot, and nearly impossible to put out. For a man who built his reputation on authenticity, the falsehood stung. Not because he feared losing followers, but because every second wasted clearing up nonsense was time stolen from the things that mattered most. Teaching his son, fixing real cars, making real memories. The noise was exhausting, the kind of distraction that gnawed at him more than a frozen bolt or a seized engine ever could. Rumors had no solution, no wrench to turn, no part to replace. They were a different kind of enemy, shapeless, pointless, but still destructive. And just when he thought he could move past the chatter, a project came along that would test him in ways no rumor ever could. Behind a collapsed barn in Arkansas, Derek found it. A forgotten family station wagon, weather-beaten, rusted, and long dismissed as worthless. To most, it was scrap metal. To him, it carried a weight that was hard to explain. This wasn't about market value or collectible rarity. It was about memories. As he carefully unbolted parts and polished faded emblems, it was clear the project wasn't just mechanical. It was emotional. Each rusted screw felt like opening an old box of photographs. When he finally got the engine to rumble again, the moment wasn't triumphant. It was overwhelming. Tears welled, not for the machine, but for what it represented. A reminder of family, of loss, of the ghosts we all carry but rarely confront. For years, Vice Grip Garage had been about saving cars. But standing in front of that running station wagon, Derek realized it was about something bigger. Every car was a second chance, every engine a metaphor for starting over. That project broke something open inside him, and in the process it revealed a truth he could no longer ignore. If Vice Grip Garage was about second chances, then maybe he needed to give himself one too, and that meant hitting the brakes. Derek had been running full throttle for years, chasing deadlines like a drag racer pushing past the red line. But after the station wagon project, something shifted. He realized he couldn't keep burning himself out just to feed the algorithm. So he made a decision, slow down. He started saying no to projects that didn't feel right, choosing instead the ones that actually meant something. The videos changed too. Instead of polished highlight reels, Derek showed the messy reality, the bolts that wouldn't budge, the fuel lines that cracked, the long hours of frustration. And fans loved it even more. It wasn't about perfection anymore. It was about honesty. More importantly, slowing down gave him time to breathe. His son Bentley became a real partner in the garage, tiny hands gripping wrenches, eager to learn. His wife Jessica, always the quiet backbone, kept the operation steady while reminding him to step away when needed. Together, they found a rhythm that wasn't about speed, but about balance. For Derek, the biggest restoration wasn't a Mustang, a Cadillac, or even a station wagon. It was himself. He was rebuilding his life piece by piece, learning that sometimes the best way to win is to ease off the gas. In the end, Vice Grip Garage was never just about reviving dead cars. It was about second chances, machines, memories, and even people. Derek's journey with the Mustang, the theft, the rumors, and the station wagon revealed something powerful. The toughest battles aren't fought with wrenches or welders. They're fought within ourselves. The Mustang's roar proved he could still rise against impossible odds. The carburetor theft showed him the strength of his community. The internet rumors tested his patience, and the station wagon broke open a truth he could no longer ignore. The real restoration was happening inside the man behind the camera. Today, Vice Grip Garage isn't louder, crazier, or faster. It's more real. Derek's videos remind viewers that life, like an engine, doesn't always run smooth. There are stalls, leaks, and breakdowns. But with patience, persistence, and heart, anything can be rebuilt. And as fans continue to watch him turn wrenches with his son by his side, one thing is clear. Derek didn't just save rusty metal from the junkyard, he saved himself. But it leaves one question behind. How many creators, chasing clicks and content, are driving themselves into the ground? And who among them will find the courage to finally hit the brakes?